Oh, welcome! I look slightly red today, I don't know why. I've not been in the sun. Oh, whoa, welcome! I haven't done that for a while, have I? This is a pretty apt video to start that off. Naughty Dog, Neil Druckmann, has come out and basically addressed the whole critical situation of The Last of Us Part 2. So I thought we'd take a look at it, really, because I do think it is interesting. Now, let's get into this. This article is linked down below in the description box. Just prior to that, you probably see all this in the background. I'm making a movie. I've spoken about it quite a lot before. Still, a few people still ask me to actually talk about it. It's a horror fantasy film. I wrote it. I'm directing it. Inspired by Hellraiser, The Thing, Conan, Norse inspired, all these kind of things. Check it out. It's linked down below. If you donate $5 or more, you're in for a chance of winning a prop, which is a little bit cooler than that, I think, because it's more ornamental and doesn't have to have the battle damage. Right, that out of the way, let's dive into this, shall we? So, making the media rounds to promote the upcoming release of The Last of Us Part 2, Naughty Dog VP Neil Druckmann discussed the backlash to the game's spoiler-heavy leaked content, telling players dissatisfied with the game's plot direction, that sucks, but the story's going to win for us. Interesting. Now, I will say, I've actually had a discussion with YouTube about the flagrant copyright abuse that was happening surrounding all this. They do know about it, actually, funnily enough. And they do plan to try to make some changes, so it's not as easy for the, douche canoes over at Muso, Andy Chatterley. If you're watching this, you're a scumbag. To just, abuse the system, basically. But it's not going to happen anytime soon. Soz. Now, on June 5th, Eurogamer published the first part of an interview with Neil Druckmann, which featured a discussion with Druckmann about various aspects of The Last of Us Part 2's development. I do find it fascinating that none of the game websites were reporting on the fact that they were just abusing copyright systems, silencing themselves, in fact, so much so. That's how, removing memes and GIFs and all this kind of stuff. Why did no one report on it? Why? I mean, I know why, because they just want their free little freebies. And this is why, I called out some of the bigger YouTubers, because they weren't talking about it. And I just thought, what a bunch of scumbags. And lo and behold, then they started talking about it. I'm not saying I was part of that. I think, there was a few people that did it. But, it is scum. It's totally scummy, because they'll come for you, right? These people don't care. Anyway, whatever. While the first half of the interview focuses on the game's direction and story, the second half is spent addressing the elephant in the room. Now, as a reporter, Weefy, I don't know how to say that, sorry, Wilson, asks if the leaks had any impact on the studio. And here's his response. Druckmann responds, they sucked. You've worked on something for so long, and then to have it come out in the way that it did was disappointing. And I agree, yeah, absolutely. But it's out, you just got to own it. To myself and other members of the team. But pretty quickly we huddled together and wanted to discuss it. Yeah, to try to remove it by clamping down on, people just posting random stuff, by silencing everything and just, copyright claiming and striking your critics. Ridiculous. Now, and again, I sympathise with him. It is absolutely terrible to have stuff come out surrounding things. Of course it is. Absolutely. I don't doubt it. But how you act on the back end of that is very important. Now, he continued and said, first of all, The Last of Us 1 had stuff leak. Uncharted 4 had a truck where the games were stolen off that truck early and people were posting the ending early. And that didn't take away from anything at the end because nothing compares to playing it. Nothing compares to being Ellie and feeling those moments, not just in cutscenes, but in gameplay, conversations, the music, and the emotional effect that has on you. And yeah, no doubt. I agree, of course, nothing could take away from that. But you're still going to perturb people, aren't you? Now, there we go. And the story was constructed in such a way that it's really not about twists and turns. People that have read the leaks know that it definitely is. It's about slowly ratcheting the crank and feeling the tension with the choices the characters make. Well, there's definitely some twists and turns in there, for sure. He then stated, so, okay, it sucks. But we know once people get their hands on it, they're going to feel what it is we're after, whether they've seen it or not, and that's what made us confident. God damn. Okay, it's going to be uncomfortable for a while, the game's going to be out there, and I think you're going to get what we want you to get out of it. But again, remember, you were trying to silence everyone like a bunch of scumbags. And again, here we go. Druckmann and Naughty Dog vigorously deployed Twitter's new tool that prevented individuals from commenting on any of their posts promoting the game. Just silence. Just completely silence. Don't worry about it. And then I discovered Muso TNT. I did the work on that. Absolute bunch of pricks. They also deployed a legal entity titled Muso TNT Limited. They're just like they just employ people in the third world, basically, developing countries, to run around online and copyright claim people on behalf of Muso. The most, horrendous companies that they were employing, but, whatever. Who cares, I guess? To target any and all individuals they deemed were sharing leaks. You couldn't even share a meme. You don't own a meme. This included numerous DMCA takedowns on Twitter. That even saw the official PlayStation Twitter account sharing a trailer for the game, which then got censored. I mean, that's when you know you've lost the plot. That's when you know you've just lost the plot. That's when you know that they just went full scorched earth. It's terrible. Sony and Naughty Dog also used Muso TNT Limited to issue copyright strikes to a number of YouTubers, I was one of them, who were discussing The Last of Us Part 2 while not showing them. So, whilst not showing the leaks. They just kept doing it. Labelling the totality of critics of the event seen in the leaked cutscene footage a minority. This is how disingenuous the games journalist is, right? That Weefy Wilson. A minority that won't accept any depiction of diversity at all. And then asked, what are your thoughts on the reaction to that? Now, how disingenuous. Were there people that didn't like the diversity aspect? Absolutely. Yes, there were. Most people, however, didn't like it from a narrative perspective. So it's very disingenuous to say, well, it was just a minority. They didn't like it because they just can't accept depictions of diversity. Like, come on, behave. That's not right. Druckmann directly addressed said critics, beginning, there's a lot of the feedback that came out. Our take on it is, you don't know, right? There's so many false things out there. We don't want to go out there and correct anything because that would be spoiling the game in a way by saying what it isn't. We're kind of saying what it is. And apparently this Abby character is not trans, so there you go. I think that rumour was started by Sausage Roll, if I remember rightly. So, we don't need to worry. She's not, people that were concerned about it don't need to worry. I didn't particularly give a crap that she was supposedly trans. It didn't really make any sense in a post-apocalyptic world, narratively speaking. I do like words to make sense, but, whatever. He continued, and then as far as the kind of characters we put in our games, we try our best. We made a journey with Ellie, and Ellie is who she is. It's been defined in the previous game. We're going to continue going forward. She's now 19. How do we explore all the facets of what it's like to be 19? You think you're invincible. You think you know what's right and wrong in the world. You are sexually attracted to people you're attracted to. Those are all things we want to explore for this character. That's how we do honest storytelling. Sure. So if you somehow have a problem with that, well, then that sucks. But the story's going to win for us. It's ironic or maybe sad. I think the people will benefit the most from this kind of story are the ones that are yelling the loudest right now. But I hope there's enough in the game to draw them in and just normalize stuff that is normal. It is part of our society and is part of owning up to an interesting, nuanced character. Yeah, just when it is. It's not like part of society is just is. Like, that's true, society. Just is. People just don't care, I've never understood this, the need to be put on a pedestal. It's a joke. Now, obviously, Druckmann refuted allegations that Naughty Dog is somehow sacrificing the story to win diversity points, stating that everything is in service of the story, and basically, getting better diversity gives us better story. No, that's not always the case. Come on now. Again, Batwoman's a very good example of that. Lesbian terrorist gets away with terrorism because she's a lesbian. I mean, that's just total trash. It's nonsense. it's demonstrably nonsense as well. And yeah, a lot of the misconception is like, oh, we're somehow sacrificing the story to win diversity points, and that's not how we work. Everything is in service of the story. Getting better diversity gives us better story, gives us fresher perspectives on conflict, and I hope once they play the game, they'll realise it. So when asked if he was worried about making a game about hatred, that if it would beget more hatred, Druckmann responded, oh, it's interesting that some of the reaction is very much indicative of what the game is designed to do, and I think it's a bit into spoiler territory, but we want to elicit certain feelings from the player and then have them reflect on those feelings for the second part. So for us, it's like, okay, we've got the first part, now let's see if we can get the second part once the game is out there, because again, people just don't know. Alright, fine, whatever. It basically says, there's all these theories about what the ending is, but the ending is not out there. You actually don't know how it all comes together. Would you reckon they'll do a big first day patch? Would you reckon? There's not much else to go into. It's just more trash from Druckmann, and it is all trash. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know down below. If you're new here, do hit subscribe. Stay up to date on the world of pop culture and movie news by hitting the bell notification icon. Thanks so much. Take care.